Guys, welcome back. Here we are in the trunk of a 2006 MZ Roadster. This is very similar to all of the Z4s from 2003 to 2009. Essentially what we're going to be doing here is installing an iPod integration kit, and we start in the trunk, we work our way forward. So here we have our battery in the M Roadster. It's right here. If you've got a Z4, your battery is down here. So your Z4 is just not going to have this block here. So we would go straight to the back wall and start the process. So you can watch this just for informative reasons. Otherwise, you can fast forward. So M Roadster guys, M Coupe guys, this is how we get our battery containers off. There are 1, 2, 3, 8mm or Phillips head, depending on how you want to look at it, plastic attachments here. So we're going to remove them. And I've kind of already got them part of the way out just to speed things up. It's never exciting to watch a screw being removed. So I'm using an 8mm here just because someone had already stripped out the Phillips heads. So I would also recommend you using that 8mm. Using your panel removal tool, sometimes these guys can be really tight, popping it out of there. Now, on top, we have 1, 2, 3. It's kind of hard to see. You probably can catch it, but you'll feel them. There are 10mm nuts back here. We need to remove those. There are 3 of them. You'll want to use a 10mm Allen, or I'm sorry, a 10mm socket. I've already gotten them loose. Just a little standard 10mm. With those out of the way, we're going to take our battery tray. We're going to kind of lift it up and lift it out. And that's going to expose our battery, as well as back up here, there's the pass-through going into the cabin. That's where we're going to route our cable back up through here. Yeah, we'll uncover it a little bit more in just a moment. So that's how we get our battery cover out. So at this point, we're going to want to gain access to our CD changer connections because that is the connections we need for the dice. So to do that, there are a couple different ways. You can take your whole trunk apart. I have to be honest with you, you don't need to. It's a lot of unnecessary work, especially in the Roadster. So you can just kind of fold this down out of the way. And here's where it's going to require a little bit of camera work and a little bit of ingenuity here with the lighting. You can see there's little fasteners here. There's a little fastener right here. There's one down here. And then there's also a couple back in here scattered among the rear wall. If you have a Z4, it's going to be exactly the same on the passenger side as it is here on the driver's side. Okay, so in this particular instance, seeing as the cables are not here readily accessible at the factory amplifier, which is this guy right here, we're going to go ahead and want to take this piece of carpeting out. So to do that, we're going to go over here and start on the driver's side. And these little guys I showed you earlier, they're just little screw-on fasteners, so you can, and I'll take it apart here and show you. And the cool thing about all this is it's just carpet, so it's very flexible. There's plenty of give. So you can see, all I'm doing is just unscrewing this little guy. So there are 2 of them. There's another one back here as well, which we need to access. It's a little bit trickier up here. So you need to kind of be ambidextrous. It helps. So with the convertible top up, we want to take these 2 dials on either side of the trunk and turn them inward to lift up the little mechanism here to give us that extra space that we need, because we want to lift up the carpet a little bit higher. And again, you don't want to take this carpet all the way out. It's just not an easy task, and it's just not necessary. So with that done, we're going to take our carpet and kind of pry it out a bit. And let's see if I can't shed a little more light on the subject here. So, kind of see back here, this is our factory amplifier. This is our Bluetooth module or our assist module if it's so equipped. And our CD changer cables are routed up into this area here. You can actually see them. They're in a harness right back here. They're in this harness right here. You can actually see the audio input cables here, the white, red, white, blue, and white, brown. So they run up into this harness and then they tuck back around in there. And BMW can put them anywhere back there. I assure you they are there. In one way or the other. Sometimes they're on this side, sometimes they're on this side. So what you really want to, like, oh, this car, they're just right, literally, like right here. cool, there's our 6-pin connector, and our 3-pin connector must be nearby because they're always routed together. Let's try the left hand. And there is our 3-pin connector. So that is the hardest part of this installation because everything else is super duper straightforward. So with these plugs identified, we're going to go into the cabin, and actually what we're going to do is we're going to let the top back down. That'll make your life a little bit easier. And then we're going to snake the trunk cable from the front of the car to the back of the car where we'll plug these in. So let's pause it here. Let's join you guys up in the cabin with the top down and start the cable routing process. So we're back up in the front of the car. We've lowered the top mechanism. We're going to slide the passenger seat all the way forward because we need to access the pass-through, which lives behind the subwoofer grill here behind the seat. Pretty exciting process here. So now, using our plastic panel removal tool, usually these things have some kind of gap in it. This one already does. So you can usually use your fingernails to start it, but if not, you can take a panel removal tool. And it just pops. Just pops out. Use your fingers because this plastic is usually brittle in these cars, especially ones where the top is left down a lot. So I like to kind of, and I'll show you the clips here in a moment so you can see what we're working with. You can see the clips are just little plastic snaps. So hopefully yours remained intact. Usually they do, it's not an issue, but just note that. So with the grill removed, not only can you see your little factory woofers, you can see on this side there's a pass-through. And that goes right back here towards the trunk, which is where we're going to route our cable. So to do this, we take one end of our iPod cable with the 3 and 6-pin female connectors, and I kind of tuck it back through here, like so. Just shove a bunch back in there because that'll just increase your odds of grabbing it when you come in from the trunk. So you just pull the carpet back a little bit and put your hand back here. All right, I have it in my hand. That's why you want to bring as much of it back as possible. Then you have it. So at this point, you know, in this car, you can do it any number of ways. You can route it behind the battery, in front of the battery. Why don't we just go behind the battery? Just kind of tuck it up over the cables and such. Back here. Bring it down and around the battery. And then we can take our connections. Let's see if I can't make this a little bit easier to see. Well, you guys can figure out how to plug it in. So yeah, we'll plug in our 3 and 6. The first thing we do is plug in our 6-pin connector. We don't actually plug in this 3-pin connector until we finish with the installation up front. So for the time being, we're going to leave that be. So at this point, we're going to take our Phillips head screwdriver and we're going to loosen a couple of these screws because essentially what we're doing is we're going to be routing the cable up into the console and forward, depending on whether or not you opted for the spec dock or you're just going to bring the standard dice cable out or any iPod cable out into your center console. So let's take our Phillips head screwdriver, loosen these guys up. There are only 3 of them we need to worry with. Put all those guys down there. So at this point you see we have a little bit of play with this. So we take our cable, and again it all depends on where your module's going to live. Tuck the cable up under here, like so, and then we're going to drop this end of the cable down as we need to bring it to the front. At this point we can tuck. When we tuck it, and we just bring it forward up into the center console. It's all tuckable, as it were. So we just start bringing it forward however we want to bring it. Now sometimes you need a module in the front of the car, sometimes it needs to be in the console for various reasons. So bring the seat back, and again, it's all tucking. I'm very serious when I'm performing installations. So at this point, we've got our cable up here, we've got everything we need. So we can either plug it into our dice module, or, which we would do regardless, and from the dice module on, we would plug it into our spec dock, which is our ashtray dock that lives here in the ashtray, which I'm going to show you guys how to do that now. So let's pause right here, pull our ashtray out, and we're going to start the removal process of the ashtray so you guys can see how to do the spec dock.